Welcome to CXO, a magical podcast to help you serve better and concoct experiences that are superlative in nature. I'm your host, Supriya Sharma, bringing to you in each episode didactic nuggets so you can get inspired to sprinkle stardust in your company, your home, and the community on the whole.
We have with us today Anna Sheppard, CEO of Bambuddha Group, a social enterprise that provides leadership coaching and CSR programs, helping companies to work kinder for people, community, customers, and environment. Anna is the host of Project Good Boss and the Corporate Kindness Conference and Awards, which bring together businesses to celebrate those working hard and working kind. Welcome to our show, Anna.
Thank you. It's so great to be here, Supriya. I'm really happy, and I'm so grateful that you've asked me to come and say a few words today. I think it's been a very interesting year so far, and I'm hoping I might be able to bring a little bit of joy to the conversation, a little bit of hope, and lots and lots of great chats. So I'm really happy to be here.
Perfect. So Anna, you mentioned about having an interesting year. Indeed, it has been for some of us, while some of us have really struggled our way through, and which has been interesting in a way because we realize the best potential of ours in that case. So this makes me refer to something which is the Oracle and Workplace Intelligence Study. According to them, 2020 is the most stressful year in recorded history, with up to 70% of the global workforce having reported increased levels of stress and depression. Now, given the situation, what is the best remedy or what is the best medicine to patch this up? And in fact, I would add to the question, not only to patch this up, but also to prevent it in future. What do you think?
I think uncertainty is something we don't deal with very well as a human race. And I think obviously we work with leaders and businesses who spend their whole lives trying to strategize on what's going to happen next so that they can predict the trends, they can predict how and how they best can operate as a leader and as an organization. But I think many of the things that have taken place in the past couple of years just have been so out of our ability to plan. And I think we're not very good at change as humans, even though it's the one thing that's completely inevitable. So I think there's nothing we could have done really, I think, apart from maybe being a little bit more in tune with the science that was out there and the warnings that we had previously around these types of things happening. This isn't the first time in the world that this has happened. And with regards to business and with regards to international relations and trade, I think it's really taught us a lesson around how really codependent and interdependent we are as a species on this planet. And I think, we like to think one thing could happen somewhere and it doesn't affect the other places in the world, but it's just not true. Every business is made up of a multitude of facets, a multitude of supply chains, a multitude of people and stakeholders that aren't just necessarily based around the area in which you're operating and living. And I think, I think stress levels have gone up, mental health. I'm really worried it's going to be the next pandemic. This past year has really brought to light challenges that people might have been running away from for a long time. And it's challenged people on every level, not just at home, but at work and then personally as well. So I think, we don't know when this is going to really come to a conclusion, and we have to be really patient and really resilient at this time. But I think, to answer your question, I think the good work around how we can really look to get over this is to just look within. And if people can spend time on that self-kindness and that well-being and start to use this time to get to know yourself better and to be kinder to yourself, I think it means you're going to be much more capable of dealing with the pressures and stress around you and the situations that you might be in, but also not isolating yourself, making sure you connect with the people, the support systems that are around you so that you can utilize the things that are in place that you might have always had, but you might not have invested enough of resource or your time into. And I think forgiving as well. It's okay if you feel a bit wobbly right now. Like, this isn't an easy time for anybody by any stretch of the imagination. You know, and if you're in a workplace, if you're a leader that's trying to be a supportive leader right now, the best thing that you can do is put your workplace wellbeing practices in place. I know in Australia, they've just rolled out an amazing initiative where, you know, you can access lots and lots of coaching that can help you be a better leader around the mental health piece, but also how you be able to support your teams in a way which you can really give them the resources, tools, and access for them to be able to support themselves in an empowered way. So yeah, it's a challenging time, and I think there is no remedy. All we can do is be resilient and compassionate, kind, and try our best to be as much in the moment as we can, so that each, you know, the day to day is tolerable and enjoyable. Yeah.
On a larger scale, you mentioned about initiatives like well-being coaching and access to well-being tools, which is great on a larger scale when you're talking about a multitude of people and nations, etc. And on a personal level, you mentioned about looking within, introspecting, and deriving strength from who you already are and getting to know yourself better. Most of all, you mentioned a beautiful word called kindness. You know, kindness is something that we've been taught in kindergarten, to be kind to other people, to be kind to all living beings, regardless of who they are and where they're coming from. Okay, that was kindergarten and that was school. But what is corporate kindness? What is this concept called corporate kindness?
Yeah, good question, because a lot of people think, well, kindness really should stop at school, but we disagree with that, because, you know, why do we, like Jacinda Ardern actually very famously was talking about how, you know, we teach young people to be kinder, but then we think that we shouldn't be when it becomes to being a leader. And I think it's a little bit of a contradiction and very ironic that we, you know, hypocritically try and encourage others to be kinder and then just think we shouldn't be ourselves. But I think corporate kindness in its purest form is about putting the humanity back into business. It's about having the accountability and responsibility as an organization for all of your stakeholders in a way where you're thinking about the people, and you're not just ticking the boxes. It's how are you truly looking after the well-being of your workforce? How are you engaging with your community in a way which you're actually solving social and environmental issues? How are you liaising and interacting with your customers in a way which is honest and integral and authentic? And, you know, what can you be doing to truly understand the impact that you have, not just on the individuals around you or the organization, but societally as well?
Yeah.
So we talk about social responsibility, corporate social responsibility, and some of these terms make people fall asleep. You know, it's somebody else's job on the side of the business. Yeah. You know, I don't have to look after the CSR. That's Deborah's job, you know, and Deborah's marching around trying to get everybody engaged. But it's everybody's accountable for kindness in business. And, you know, the facts and the proof are there. Businesses are now needing to show up, and they need a social license to operate into the future. Emerging leaders, you know, millennials, everyone's like, millennials this, we're the least of the worries. The next generation are the biggest tidal wave of change you're ever going to experience. And you know, they're not going to stand and work for organizations which don't align to their values, to the point where they would actually take pay cuts to work for businesses. And that they shouldn't need to take pay cuts, but people are willing to sacrifice so much now for those values in which they live by. Your consumers are choosing, you know, there's so much research out there now that shows consumer habits have shifted dramatically through information sharing and the ethics around your brand. And is your supply chain damaging a community in Brazil? Is your supply chain, you know, ensuring that there's no much child slavery in India, in the cotton fields? You know, how are you as an organization showing up in a way where you understand your impact? And it's not always about having it completely right either, because the reality of it is most businesses have got some dirty washing. They have, because, you know, the supply chain is a very difficult thing to get really into, but it's about knowing where you're at. And you can say, look, this is what we do for kindness to people, this is what we do for kindness to community, and this is our commitment to how we're going to improve the environment and, you know, reduce the CO2 emissions and try and turn the clock back on some of the damage that this generation has caused, not through an intention necessarily to cause, but because we weren't educated enough on what was happening in the world. So that's kindness in a nutshell. And it's also about accepting people and organizations as where they're at. Where are you at? And saying, you know what, it's okay, because tomorrow's a new day to start turning everything around. We don't need to, you know, try and, I feel like the fear that we have in the world and the way we go around things sometimes is so counterproductive.
Yeah.
What we really need is truly inspirational, empathetic leaders that are well informed, that go back to the science, that listen to the people, and that do the best for all stakeholders, not just shareholders. And that, my friend, is corporate kindness.
Not only you described kindness for us, but also you showed the incentives for these companies to, you know, center their decision making and processes around kindness. What do they stand to gain in that case? But Anna, commercially, are we ready for the emotional business rather than rational business from a commercial point of view?
Oh, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that, because actually I would say that the emotional businesses are the rational businesses at this current time. You know, the triple bottom line has never been easier to prove across all industries, across all stakeholder types. Nobody wants to work for an organization that's not ethical these days. Nobody wants to do business with an organization that can tarnish their brand. You know, there's so many reports out there now showing that the socially responsible brands are as high as 41% up in comparison to those that aren't, which are as low as 41% down. You know, so if you want the metrics, the proof is out there now. And I don't think those that are irrational are the ones that aren't seeing how important humanity is to be embedded into business in every facet, and that kindness piece and empathy and truly understanding the impact that you have. So a few years ago, we would have been able to say, oh, kindness isn't for the boardroom. It's, you know, and we've still got that fight now. You know, what I need the metrics. How am I supposed to prove this to the shareholders?
Exactly.
And, you know, as at the end of the day, you know, that's where we've got to get creative. And at Bambuddha, we work really, really hard to prove the benefits of the triple bottom line, to look at social responsibility, rebranded to be about humanity and the impact that we have on the world around us, because we need to make it sexy, we need to make it fun, we need to make it joyful, and we need to prove that this is good for business. And all of the trends are pointing in that direction. And anyone that's listening to this, that's on a board, that runs a business, I urge you to get on top of this, because without a clear understanding of how your business is going to show up with a social license to operate, you're going to struggle to be sustainable into the future at all.
Sustainability, that's the word you hit on, right? But as a customer, I'm talking about my experience now as a customer, being very selfish here, solipsism as we call it. What do I stand to gain in interacting, or rather patronizing, organizations which are based around this sentiment of kindness and humanity? How does my experience differ? Okay, as a millennial or as youth, I'm probably more interested in patronizing Patagonia, who is quite a sustainable organization, you know, using their jackets. But then, as an experience, what do I stand to gain? Sustainability is fashionable. Okay, I agree, and I do it. But from an experience point of view, really something that touches the heart and something that gives me a memorable experience, something that I remember for a lifetime. What do I stand to gain by interacting with such organizations which are based on the concept of kindness and humanity and stuff?
And I think the only person who can answer that is you. You know, what kind of world do you want to live in? What is your brand? Who are you and what do you stand for? Are you the type of person that stands for unethical business and you're happy to purchase from businesses with slavery in the supply chain? Or are you someone that stands up for something, a movement that's committed to creating a change in the world? And that emotional consumerism around the value alignment is becoming more and more important than ever before. Because by showing up and buying a pair of Adidas trainers that have been made out of plastic from the sea, or your bamboo toothbrush, or your non-toxic deodorant, or all of the above, whether you choose to have palm oil, are you having palm oil in your food? And if it is palm oil, is it sustainable palm oil? And do you understand all of this? And where's your coffee from? And there's actually a really interesting survey you can do called How Many Slaves Work for You, based on your purchasing decisions. And I think one of the things that it really is about your personal brand. And more people are not purchasing from customers anymore. Not purchasing from businesses anymore or particular products. They're joining movements that are standing up for something that they believe in, something that they may be feeling personally affected by, whether it's they can relate to inequality in some way, they can relate to poverty, they can relate to unfair treatment, unfair payment, or environmental issues that are affecting the homelands that they're from, the villages and towns they're from, the food they eat. It's their illness. Are you consuming products that could be making you ill because they're full of toxic things? And really, that's individual preference, and that's the beauty of the movements which are being established through brands. Is it's consumer driven, it's consumer led. And yes, it's taken time to educate people around why we should be changing our consumer habits. And I think the thing is, once you've heard and once you know about certain things, you can't unknow them. You might go into that supermarket and you're like, God, I can forget about the fact that actually I just found out about this, but I really should buy this because even though it's $1 more, I don't want to be that person that's polluting the planet, and really that's what you have to think about. And I suppose I might ask you the question, what's your brand? What do you stand for? And why did you choose Patagonia?
Makes sense. Because exactly, consumerism is based on our values and what do we stand for, not just what the society or what the trend is leading us to. Okay, you can follow the society or the trends for a while, but then at the end of the day, you stick to something only if it is in alignment with your values. I get it now.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to conclude this, corporate kindness, again, I'll go back to. So as a corporate, where can we start being kind? Tell us the starting point.
So the first thing you can do is have a good, hard look in the mirror. Have a look in the mirror and have a look at who are you as a leader. Because always corporates, this work that we do is driven by leaders within bigger businesses and smaller businesses. It's not a toothless body, a corporation. Feels like it sometimes, but it's full of people. It's full of leaders that are committed to their own values and their own purpose and their own drive for change. So the first thing you can do is look in the mirror and just say, who am I? Who exactly am I? And what do I stand for? What do I want to be known for as a leader? And then what's the influence that I have right now? Am I somebody who can try and change strategy? Am I somebody that can lead a team to wellness? Am I somebody who could start a movement in my organization, that could start a campaign that gets people talking? And then really get a grip and an idea of what your impact is as an individual. Then how many people can you take on that journey within your organization to get a think about, well, what's the impact we have as an organization? Then get clear on who you are as an organization. What do you stand for? And what's the world that you're trying to create through your products and services? And I suppose that's a different way of looking at business, is actually thinking first about the impact that you have in the world. But let me tell you, the products, the profit, all of the things that you want will follow by de facto once you start doing that. And there's so much proof in the world to show that as well. So that's the first place to start, is looking in the mirror, thinking about the influence and change you can make, and then taking action to make that happen.
Brilliant. So I'm heading right away to have a look in the mirror and to see.
Yeah, have a look in the mirror, have a good look in the eyeballs.
Yeah, and how can I shake up my leadership skills to influence the people around me and to help the planet on the whole? Thank you so much for being with us, Anna, today on CXO. We were delighted to have you. Thank you.
No worries. Take care.
Thanks for listening to CXO with your host, Supriya. I hope you enjoyed a dive into the nitty-gritty of customer experience. If you are committed to applying these ideas in the real world, stay tuned with me. Don't forget to check out all the links and resources in the show notes. That's all for this episode, folks. See you next time.